You always hear me say that 7.4 is one of the greatest Xbow Cycle players of our generation. Well, he's starting to prove it. Finishing number 23 in the entire world on the ranked ladder, he was the highest 3.0 Xbow Cycle player last season, even beating players like Betfus. How is it even possible to beat an unwinnable matchup like this? You're about to find out, as today I'm going to be breaking down his best games that resulted in this incredible finish. 7.4 and I are back with yet another banger video. Enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, our boy 7.4 has gone and done it, finishing as the highest 3.0 Xbow Cycle player in the world last season. Our game number 1 here is against Mugi playing Royal Giant Cycle, and Mugi is the highest player in the world, period, last season, finishing number 1 and beating the entire season, taking the crown using this very same Royal Giant Cycle deck. And that is going to be our game number 1. So you already know this video is going to be an absolute masterpiece when the very first match is against a multiple-time CRL world finalist and champion, as well as the player who won the very season that this video is covering. This is ridiculous. And let this game and this match be a testament to the quality of gameplay you can expect from the rest of this video, because believe me, the matches we're about to watch from 7.4 are absolutely insane. So 7.4 is a long-term pro of Clash Royale and using 3.0 Xbow Cycle in general. He piloted this deck to massive success many years back, getting many top 50 finishes, accumulating in a number 8 at his pinnacle. But he did kind of retire from the game for a while, for a few years, took a step back to focus on university and school stuff, I believe. But of course, as most Clash Royale players and former pros do, he came back, he couldn't stay away, and he's been making quite a name for himself recently. And I feel like this achievement, this number 23 finish, really cements his name as one of the Xbow Cycle greats, not only of all time, but especially of our current generation. I would confidently put him at number 2, right behind Betfus after this performance. Mortar's also insane, being one of the best Xbow Cycle finishers a couple of seasons ago, and also having many high finishes with the deck, but I'm kind of biased to 7.4. He's a great friend of mine, and this is just an incredible achievement as well, because Betfus was actually just as high as 7.4 throughout this entire season, and Betfus actually kind of tilted at the end, finishing around top 50, so 7.4 actually beat Betfus in a season that they were both competing in and both taking seriously, because this is the CRL season. Everyone who played ladder this season qualifies for CRL, so all the pros, people like Betfus, Mohamed Light, Mugi, took it very seriously to try and actually win, whereas the first few seasons of the year, people still take it seriously, of course, but it's different when CRL is on the line. But into our first match here against Mugi, we're entering double elixir with 0 damage on our towers, and also 0 fireballs played, interestingly enough, just what looks to be 1 log cycled on the right side over here. And 7.4 cycled to his Evos, gets that Evo Tesla and the Evo Archers down, and I'd like to highlight just how methodically he plays a matchup like this. He does take that first fireball on the Fisherman, putting him in the damage lead for the first time in this match. He also does have the logs, so we take a look at Mugi's deck. This is one of the best decks in the game, and best archetypes in the game, period. Royal Giant Cycle is so strong, but he doesn't have a log, he has a Barb Barrel, and although the Barb Barrel is so broken against Xbow, especially with that ability with the Hero Barb Barrel, they don't have the ability, the RG player that is, to get on top of the tower with cheap spell damage. They have a Fireball, same as you, but they don't have a log, and so that does actually help us out in the spell cycle race, because they're not going to be able to log cycle the way we can. And as you can see, that 7.4 is already ahead, even though Mugi has been playing decent pressure. He's not really overcommitting at all. Here, 7.4 goes for a nice defensive Xbow opposite lane, of course, anti-fireball to that tower on the right, which is his weaker tower, and it looks like he just intends to play this very patiently and very slowly. And again, I'd like to highlight just how methodical his playstyle and strategy is. Really good protection of those Evo Archers to make sure they stay alive and take care of this RG push, because RG push is some of the scariest to deal with in the game, especially a world champion like Mugi's when he's piloting this deck. Those pushes are just ridiculous. Gets a low Evo Tesla for 7.4 on this defense, and he's doing okay. He's not rushing anything, and he likes to play this matchup, and I feel like just the way he plays this game in general, it's very methodical, and it's very just what feels to be optimal I mean, he's never really making any misplays. He's always matching his plays to his opponent's pace. He will be punishing and going aggressive if a matchup calls for it, but he knows exactly how to play a matchup like this. And there have been pretty much zero offensive expos played all game, because especially with the hero barbell, now that we're entering triple, there's really no leeway for you to get a big expo connection. And so what 7-4 wants to do is just kind of survive and chill and make sure he's never taking a singular RG shot. Mugi can fireball those archers, but he has his damage in the right tower, so he actually makes the smart decision to let it go and just kind of ignore them, building a huge push with that fisherman and ghost that were already on the board previously, fireballs off the archers, or at least attempts to, hitting the tower, and you can see that 7-4 with his reactive playstyle just takes a nice fireball back, and I believe that might have been an archer shot in the left as well. 7-4 just kind of running ahead in this game now. And he's just matched Mugi's pace the entire way through. I mean, again, this is Mugi, one of the best RG players in the world, and a CRL world champion, and he can't break through 7-4's defense, so that just shows you, no matter how annoying this matchup is on paper, no matter how much of a pain it is, 7-4, the way he played this shows that with perfect defense as the Xbow Cycle player, even against someone like Mugi, you can survive, not take a single RG shot, and win the game by playing with the momentum tailored to you the whole time. That was pretty much a masterclass in the RG Cycle matchup, with perfect defense, zero misplays, and that's pretty much what 7-4's gameplay is. Just how is it physically possible to win a matchup like this? Evo Royal Giant Monk, Miner, Earthquake Arrows with an Evo Bomber and an ultra fast cycle. To put it bluntly, this is a straight up snipe, which means the opponent Moon here has built a deck with the singular purpose to completely counter 7-4's 3.0 Xbow Cycle deck, leaving zero room for any kind of success or victory. And yet he persisted and still won. I don't physically understand how, and so I'm here to try and find out. Now 7-4 surely knows that he's already been sniped from the moment this started. Moon is a bit infamous in the Clash Royale community. You know, he does snipe quite a lot of players. If you guys follow the Clash Royale Twitter scene, you'll see quite a few people posting about this, and it's kind of annoying, it's kind of toxic, but it's definitely a thing that happens on top ladder, and this is one such extreme example of it. But what's important for you guys to know about this is 7-4 already knows pretty much what he can expect from Moon's deck. I mean, it's very important when you're playing 3.0 Xbow Cycle to know what the opponent has, if possible. Of course, that's never a guarantee. And he probably doesn't know the exact support cards, but only after seeing Moon's name and also, of course, seeing the first few cards, he knows what exactly he's up against. And so he knows he needs to play a certain way in order to win this, otherwise it's not going to be possible. And the way that starts is with an early fireball cycle on that bomber at the beginning, and 7-4 is going to play a very specific way tailored to the fact that he's in this impossible matchup. So here you can already see stacking the archers in the left, providing zero earthquake or arrows value, and it all just starts with small plays like these. So Knight does come down in front of the archers. Moon goes for a miner on the tower. 7-4 gets the skellies to catch that miner, and Moon still has to respond to the Knight archers, and 7-4 goes for a perfectly timed Xbow plus a hero Knight ability, knowing that Moon has to respond to both and doesn't have a way to do so. If he played the Monk on the Knight archers, the Xbow would have gotten a lock on the tower, or the Monk would have gotten eviscerated by the Knight plus archers. Since he did play the Earthquake on the Knight plus archers, he didn't have enough elixir for that RG in time. And so that one singular punish, plus a perfect E-Spirit and perfect skeletons, rewatch that punish if you guys have to. That was ridiculous, starting with that simple subtlety of stacking archers in the left, getting the Knight in front, and knowing Moon's exact cycle, knowing he didn't have arrows available at the time for the archers immediately, knowing that he was going to have to contend with a huge counter push like that, just absurd. And here we see the anti-Earthquake Tesla played up high, archers stacked, Moon gets that Earthquake off plus the Monk ability, a very low log by 7-4 cycled all the way back to an Evo Tesla, and he's going to try and hold on to this lead for as long as he physically can. Miner does come in, activated King Tower is going to help out a lot by 7-4 as well. That's just going to be very important to mitigate this Miner damage for the rest of the game, and that's exactly how he has to play this game. He's going to Fireball Cycle, he's going to play high archers out of range of arrows or Earthquake hitting the tower, and look at that perfect Monk block, preventing that Monk from getting on the tower and getting those deflection shots to minimize that damage. And now a perfectly timed Xbow comes in opposite lane after Moon has exhausted the Monk and the Evo RG and the Earthquake, or I don't know if that was a basic RG, but either way, Royal Giant, Monk plus Earthquake all out of cycle. A nice Xbow punish does come in opposite lane, just forcing responses, and 7-4 matches that by just going with another Fireball, maintaining his lead. Now Moon does go for a Miner plus arrows and actually misses the E-Spirit somehow, some way. It looks like he's trying to even cycle on the King Tower with his spells, potentially going for some kind of 3-crown shenanigans, I don't know. But he's just chucking his spells on the tower, Earthquake, arrows, freely just spammed, and so 7-4 is very aggressively cycling his spells back. And now what I've told you guys about 7-4 and players at the top level like 7-4 is they're always tracking Elixir and Cycle, and so he definitely knows that Moon has an Evo Bomber in rotation, so he's never going to just allow that to get on top of the tower. He definitely knows that Moon has one right now. Monk does come down, Skelly's, and Evo Tesla comes up high, and you can see that RG ability shot shooting that Knight backwards makes the Bomber retarget onto that Evo Tesla, just so important. So a Miner plus arrows comes in. This is actually getting really tense now, because 7-4 can't really afford to get down any damage. I mean, that 1000 damage lead he had from the beginning, kind of evaporating now, because Moon is just spamming. But again, Evo Archer's played up high, trying to bridge block. Miner does come in, he blocked the Monk enough for that ability to not get on top of the tower. That is important. Log super last minute to hit everything, and to make sure he's hitting the tower with the logs as well. Also stacking these troops, Knight Archers, because the spells aren't really that good against them. Log as well, Tesla-less defense. E-Spirit Skellies does catch that Miner, but an Earthquake takes everything out. Knight blocks that Evo Bomber, because again, he knows the cycle. Fireball plus Log will come in, and somehow, some way, he beat Moon in the most impossible matchup. I don't even know what I just witnessed. Oh, I have an absolute treat for you guys next, because we have a 3.0 Xbow Cycle mirror match against the Betfist, the one and only greatest Xbow Cycle player of all time. And 7-4 did beat Betfist this season. You know, Betfist again finishing about top 50, 7-4 finishing number 23 in the top 25. So this is going to be insane. 3.0 Xbow Cycle mirror match, quite an interesting phenomenon. Let's get into this breakdown. So split archers by both sides. Betfist pressures with an E-Spirit at the bridge. 7-4 blocks it with his own. Now Betfist logs, and instead of logging back, 7-4 goes for a Knight in front of his Archer in the opposite lane, Skellies as well, and shoves an Xbow up by one tile, and this pressure is already looking devastating for Betfist. He has to get a Knight, Archers, and a Tesla down low, but 7-4 catches that Tesla with his own Archers, logs Betfist's Archers away, and Betfist is bleeding, struggling to stop this Xbow, just hammering away at his tower, gets that last minute E-Spirit Skellies on the Xbow, but the damage is done. It is unmitigated. And that punish is unreal, and frankly, it is over. You are not coming back from a situation like this, but these matches were played in the very final hours of season end, so you know Betfist is still going to try, and you're still going to see exactly how you're supposed to play this 3.0 mirror match from both sides. You know, 7-4 from a position of strength where he's already up a lot, and Betfist from a desperate perspective of trying to come back when you're in such a significant deficit, and you just have to make some crazy counterplay happen, because when you're down this much, you can't play normally and win. You have to get some crazy Xbow locks to happen. So 7-4 uses Evo Archers. Betfist still has his available. Good protection there, taking that Tesla out, but Betfist is up a little bit on the Elixir side and does again have these Evo Archers available. Looks like he's trying to utilize them in the best way possible. Knight the back by Betfist. 7-4 will match it with a Knight of his own, and you guys, that punish was still so insane to me. I mean, the fact that one singular micro difference in their decision making, you know, Betfist cycling a log haphazardly, 7-4 with a complete calculated punish. Imagine punishing someone for cycling one singular log. That is ridiculous. This is really what 3.0 Cycle is at the top level, honestly. You know, there are a lot of people who will say that the mirror match is kind of luck based. Lots of people don't really like it, myself included. I'm not that fond of the mirror match these days, because I feel like it's just so painful to play against. It's honestly quite a strenuous and taxing matchup to play. But there are levels to this game, and there are ways you play this match. I mean, look at this. 7-4 is just leaking, goes for a defensive Xbow, actually giving Betfist intentional value in the same lane. I wonder why, but Evo Archers come down low. Betfist will fireball off that Debo, And this is going to be a very easy defense for 7-4. It's going to be very hard, if not impossible, for Betfus to break through this defense, because defensive Xbow plus archers, plus the fact that 7-4 can just fireball on defense if he needs to, whereas Betfus can't afford to fireball and not hit the tower. I mean, he'll still try, but it's not really something he can afford, because again, he needs to make as much counterplay as possible happen. It's not going to be easy. E-Spirit does chain onto everything. Knight opposite. Tesla blocks the Xbow by Betfus. He might kite this knight out of range, and he does. And 7-4 gets a fast fireball plus log on that Xbow. Although Betfus does sneak a little Xbow on the tower. Signs of life displayed by Betfus. He's not giving up without a fight. And this is just ridiculous. So constant Xbow pressure by Betfus. 7-4 is going to show us exactly how he's supposed to defend these, because he needs to defend with his life. Otherwise, he's going to throw a phenomenal position. But saving that Evo Tesla means this Xbow is basically dead, although Betfus now has his own Evo Tesla to use on the offensive if he wants to. But again, 7-4 is going to lean on the fact that he has the availability and option to play much more defensively. Betfus fireballs the Xbow, and 7-4 for some reason giving Betfus fireballs, maybe a little nervous, or knowing him is probably intentional. I don't think 7-4 makes mistakes with decisions like that, but he's just giving Betfus these fireballs, I think, to kill his momentum, if I had to theorize. And now we get an offensive bow by 7-4 himself, forcing out a Knight Tesla by Betfus. That is a +1 trade for 7-4, and that's all he was looking for out of that, you know, just to force Elixir out, burn Betfus's Evo Tesla. And look at this play by Betfus. I love this counterplay. Defensive Xbow played to try and force a fireball out and try and get some momentum back, and the fireball forced out does work. And now Betfus just fireballs 7-4's tower back, and the Debo is still going strong, taking everything out, and this actually looks really scary, because Betfus has so much on the board. Good protection of those archers by 7-4, plus we'll get an E-Spirit to chain onto his own Evo archers, plus a Knight ability to take that out. Now Betfus is fireball cycling, but that's not going to be enough. You know, 7-4 is up by 1 fireball. I find it so interesting. Look at how Betfus sacked so much damage, and also on the converse side, how 7-4 also gave up so much damage intentionally to just allow this to be a secured win. You know, he never really let Betfus get the lead. It looks really close, and it is honestly really close, but I feel like 7-4 honestly gave up that damage on purpose to ensure the win, instead of playing overly defensive, making some mistakes, and maybe falling and succumbing to a lock. He gave up damage when he needed to make sure that lead never disappeared. Moving on swiftly, the next game I have for you is a match against Goat Luca, and frankly, just looking at this matchup is enough to give you whiplash. But for the record, Goat Luca finished number 13 in the world last season, one of the highest finishes in the world period last season, but also what I believe to be the highest recorded finish ever for this Golem E-Barbs version. So as much as it seems like an oxymoron, this is an actually skillful, actually talented Golem player. And you're going to be like, oh, SK, that's not possible. And okay, this dude is not doing me any favors going Golem first play. But believe me, guys, this is an actual skilled Golem player. I know it doesn't look like it. I know he's literally proving me wrong with the very first play of the game, Golem Knight, which, oh my god. But I mean, you don't finish number 13 by playing with your feet. So this is still a good player, trust me, guys. And unfortunately, this is the optimal way to play against Xbow Cycle, because he can literally win the game right now just by playing like this. But a nice Tesla by 7-4, back to a brand new Tesla, and back to another Knight. So Knight archers, multiple Tesla cycled, and that was such a clean defense, absolutely beautiful, with an E-Spirit to boot at the very end. I mean, that was just so impressive. That defense was like art. That can go in an art museum. I mean, Golem first play is so dumb, because the reality is you split archers, and they Golem, and they're up, because one of the archers goes in the other lane, they ignore it, then you're just down 1.5 elixir. Also, the singular archer doesn't do much either, since it just goes into the Golem and it can just get taken out by any support troops, so it's really not that nice. And right here, Goat Luca just resetting Bomber at the back. He's also playing with the Chef Tower, by the way, so that makes things even worse, because as if this matchup wasn't bad enough already, you know, Golem, E-Barbs, Night Witch, arrows, he has a Chef Tower to give himself a level 16 Golem. Isn't that lovely? But here we see the split Evo archers. Goat Luca goes for a Phoenix to back, 7-4 immediate Xbow opposite to punish that. And Goat Luca needs to figure out what he's going to do about this, gets those E-Barbs down, and then goes arrows for that archer. 7-4 gets a Knight down early, E-Spirit plus Skellies to block this, and Goat Luca does get a nice zap on those Skellies, but not before 7-4 has taken his tower to below 2,000 HP. So what really lies in this matchup is your ability And okay, whoa, speaking of surviving and even being born from the dead, that Phoenix buff is insane. Why is that back? But that's on the tower. 7-4's tower is going down to almost 3,000. That's ridiculous. I honestly forgot the point I was making. Oh yeah, you have to survive that Golem first play. And the only way to do that, guys, in the new meta, you don't Xbow opposite. That is a play that I still make sometimes because I get impatient, and even people like 7-4 do that when they don't show their opponents that much respect. But this is top ladder. 7-4 knows his opponent actually knows what he's doing, and so the goal is to survive that Golem push and not take any risks. And so when you're in that situation, you need to survive that first Golem defense and not go offensive bow. Then you try and punish them later, as you can see the way 7-4 did. Cycled to his Evo Archer, split the Evo Archers, got a nice push going, forced Phoenix out, and then just got a huge lock. And that's pretty much what you do in this matchup. So now it's pretty much defense for the rest of this match. We're going to be playing Survival Simulator for 3 minutes straight. Isn't that exciting? But a beautiful Evo Tesla, that was exciting. That's ridiculous. But, oh no, Evo Lumberjack getting onto the tower. This is bad. I mean, 7-4 has to overcommit so hard. He actually doesn't overcommit, he actually just lets that go, but bro, that tower is down to pretty much the same amount of HP, so I don't know, I think he didn't really have a choice. I mean, look at that elixir he conserved, he's going to be able to defend this big Golem push here, but I don't know, I mean, now Goat Luca can go same lane as him. Espirit, please chain onto the Phoenix egg. No, of course it doesn't, so Phoenix is born from the ashes. We're about to get a beautiful fireball and everything, though. Skelly's late, and then another log for this potentially. No, let's just let that go. I respect that, but look at that residual Golem damage in the left. Look at that zap cycle. Look at the fact that after cycling the zap, Goat Luca still is up elixir and has a level 16 Golem lumbering down the left side. This is just insane. And I don't really know how 7-4 is going to survive this. I mean, how is he going to survive this? This is just ridiculous. But we're going to see a brand new Tesla coming in, Evo Tesla for that matter. Again, the Phoenix Egg just survives all sorts of nonsense. I don't know why. It survives a log, it survives an Evo Tesla pulse. It's insane. But since the arrows were prematurely cycled, these Evo Archers 7-4 can lean on to be his rock in that defense, and they will clean everything up. He is now down elixir once more, as you are pretty much perpetually down elixir against every Golem match. But nonetheless, we get a log in, we get that log chip cycle coming in. Again, loss of Tesla is just Tesla farm. Goat Luca tries to go arrows, misses those archers with that clip though, and an activation of the King Tower will help 7-4 on this defense. Evo Tesla does come in, Goat Luca gets that Evo Zap on the tower. Evo Archers played opposite lane to make sure he's not giving any spell value, and a Fireball is honestly forced because he just has to spell cycle, does 7-4, in order to make this out alive. Knight staying healthy. Lumberjack comes down, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Fireball comes in again, E-Spirit, Knight to block, and somehow, someway, 7-4 survived the craziest onslaught of 2026. That is a picture-perfect textbook game of how you defend against one of the hardest Golem variations in the game. It is time for your favorite log bait streamer, Hypno, or I guess your least favorite if you dislike the archetype. But regardless, we have a match against Hypno, a very well-known content creator and streamer for this game, a fellow super creator in the Supercell Creator Program just like myself, and someone who is known to have popularized his own subset of log bait decks with an almost hyper bait-esque touch to them. This time, he's featuring the wall breakers with an ultra high pressure element to the deck. He has a super fast cycle with the Skelly's Fire Spirit. Usually his decks run multiple spirits. Also known for not really running any spells in his decks. This deck, no such exception to that rule. And he also does have the Hero Magic Archer this time around. The most broken card in the game pretty much. A very oppressive and unfortunate card to face if you don't have it yourself. And this is going to make life hell for 7-4. Now, I will be prefacing this game by telling you guys without spoilers that 7-4 is actually a bit self-conscious and insecure of this game. He didn't feel it was up to par with the standard of the rest of the games in this video, and almost didn't even want me to include it in our final video, but I told him that I want to keep it in for a few reasons. Number one, it is Hypno. He's a big name, and he is pretty much the best player with this archetype of deck, so I thought it would still be very educational for you guys to learn about how to play against a deck like this, especially when you're going to be playing against players who aren't on Hypno's level. Also, again, it is Hypno. I thought it would be interesting to collect the Infinity Stones of players in Clash, which we usually do for top ladder season end videos like these, because it just makes it much more entertaining and fun. So, you know, I'm still looking forward to breaking this down, but again, just wanted to put that out there and respect respect 7.4's opinion as well, and let you guys know, because he does appreciate me letting you guys know that he does feel a certain way about this game. But look at this start, getting into this breakdown now. A hero magic archer plopped at the bridge with multiple spirits to back it up, and 7.4's tower 555 spotted is falling to below 2000 HP in the first 2 minutes of the match. I mean, I respect Hypno, I think he's an amazing player, but player aside, that is degenerate, that is broken, that is brain dead. And this is the problem with this game and the hero magic archer. It's just insane. I mean, look at how ridiculous that is, that 7.4 couldn't even do anything, right? He had to defend. He had a knight coming down, he had a Tesla as well. That was just unstoppable. I mean, the Evo barrel pressure was insane, the magic archer pressure was insane, and that's just ridiculous overall. Nonetheless, it is 7.4's turn to pressure now, because Hypno does have a defensive style of this position, and he's the one put on the defensive after that insane offense, because he's kind of down a bit. 7.4 does a great job of catching those evil wall breakers. Again, he always knows what the opponent has in rotation at any given time, and Hypno's kind of bleeding for elixir here. Another Xbow comes down, hugging that previous Tesla. Skelly's coming down to block a potential cannon, and 7.4 knows that a magic archer come down at any time. He's going to get this knight in front, he's going to get this Tesla, he's going to try and just protect his Xbows. And something interesting that you guys will see about this Xbow sequence that you guys will probably notice if you break down a lot of these high level games like myself, that these players, when they're doing a sequence like this, you know, multiple Xbows ping pong left, right, and every lane alternating, they don't cycle the fireball, because the fastest cycle of 3.0 Xbow cycle with a 4-card cycle is actually knight, skellies, e-spirit plus log, or archers instead of the knight. Either way, he doesn't utilize that fireball because it's just going to be a 4 elixir expenditure instead of the 3 or 2 or even 1 of the other cards. And so he's electing to actually just sacrifice that bit of fireball damage you can get on the cannon at the tower, because he wants to get an optimal offense going with these support cards and just cycling the deck as efficiently as possible. I thought that was important to point out, because I myself have made the mistake numerous times of letting stuff go and just fireball and try and get damage in a greedy way, instead of focusing on the bigger picture at hand, which is right here, getting an Xbow lock. Because if 7.4 doesn't get a lock, he's done, right? So Evo archers come down, he cycled all the way back to a pair of Evo archers and an Evo Tesla in the sequence. Hypno hasn't had the chance to play a Goblin Barrel in what feels like 3 minutes straight. Evo Tesla does come down, Hypno gets those wall breakers, but 7.4 is back to another Xbow in 1 second, and we do have a triple elixir situation now, so the elixir is just flowing like insane. I can't even speak properly, and Hypno is kind of struggling. A prediction cannon, or prediction fireball rather, on that cannon gets 7.4 a sneaky lock in the left. And notice he's protecting this Xbow in the right, because he needs to make sure this Xbow lock in the left is maximized, so the Xbow on the right is almost bait to make sure that Hypno is forced to defend it. And also, this magic archer does come down. 7.4 knows the archer's coming down, needs to make sure he doesn't take even a singular bit of magic archer damage. Fireball does come in, log comes down low, Hypno's back to the marcher. 7.4 is not going to make the rookie mistake of playing anything into that magic archer. An absolutely insane comeback. The biggest takeaway I can give you guys from this ridiculous game, still very well played to 7.4 by the way, was that efficient cycling and getting back to Xbows in the fastest way possible. Because the meta was so free and boosted for Xbow Cycle last season, next up we have a game against the lovely Giant Graveyard. Where the hell is everyone who was saying 3.0 Xbow Cycle is boosted last season? I'd like to see you show your faces now, please. But anyways, we have a game against Giant Graveyard, one of the most godforsaken matchups for Xbow Cycle of all time. A classic fan favorite hated matchup. But that being said, it is actually a matchup that I see 7.4 win potentially more often than he loses. He is of course built different, but it's still just interesting because I feel like a lot of Giant Graveyard players, no offense, just aren't that good. And so all the best Xbow players can usually outplay them. I mean, I have personal experience with this too, because some of my best global tournament finishes ever, you know, my top 100s, for some of those final games, I had to beat Giant Graveyard players when I was at a significant disadvantage. And I genuinely feel like it's a skill issue thing, because Giant Graveyard just on paper completely counters 3.0 Xbow Cycle. But that being said, there are levels to Giant Graveyard. I don't even know why this archetype should just never exist. I'm totally not biased, but there are variations going around, and this guy is playing with the mini P.E.K.K.A. instead of the guards, and that does help us out, because mini P.E.K.K.A. is honestly quite a useless card against Xbow Cycle, especially the non-hero version of it. and this is just going to be quite nice overall since the cycle's just slowed a little bit. But that being said, it's definitely still bad. I would say the Witch also does help us over the Musketeer, especially the Evo Musketeer, which is just a better counter against Xbow, a cheaper card than the Witch, and of course the Evo just being a solo counter to the Xbow from the opposite side of the arena. But Witch being more expensive, also the Evo not posing that much of a threat. If you know your perfect fireball log timing, which I hope 7.4 will show us in this game, it does just add up to result in quite a few different things. Now we see the Evo Archer split, and a really sneaky, look at that Tesla placement, perfectly placed to allow this Xbow to hug it while being center placed. I think that was intentional, but the reason for the center placed Xbow is so that the Giant has to walk just a little bit further to get to that Xbow, as you guys can see. And the Witch does come down, but a fireball log swiftly comes to meet it, and if the opponent Sinistro here didn't get that mini P.E.K.K.A down, that would have been a big Xbow lock on the tower. So I love that play, and 7.4 does still get rewarded with, wow, 2 Xbow ticks on the tower. That is insane. But I mean, I do like that. I do feel like that was still a nice punish, even though it didn't really amount to much. And a pretty ill-informed bowler over there, not really doing much of anything, pretty much getting DPS down by that Tesla. Maybe a bait by 7.4, but wow, it still gets a hit on the tower. Bowler is such a skillful card, man. Okay, I'm going to stop coping. But we have an Evo Witch here, which is going to require quite a bit to deal with. I mean, you can fireball log it, but I think 7.4 would like to not. And look at this protection, wow. Talk about making the most from nothing. Talk about turning lemons into lemonade. I mean, that one archer basically solo countered that Witch. That was so nice. Just a really great display of micro, and unfortunately what was not a great display was that defense, though. I mean, minions are just so broken, right? They hit the tower from 10 miles away, they hit the Xbow from 10 miles away, and that one minion got like 500 damage. But I still would like to highlight that play. You know, something that 7.4 has said that always resonates with me, that I'll pass on to you guys, is that this entire deck revolves around the archers. If you're not keeping them alive, what are you doing? And look at exactly what he did, putting that theory into practice right there. Taking an Evo Witch out that was overhealed with one singular archer by just protecting it really well. So Evo Snowball comes down predictively. 7.4 one step ahead with the Skellies, one tile out, not getting hit by that. And this beautiful Tesla placement, as you can see, will activate King against the bowler. Now, I'm not entirely sure, I was paying attention to the Xbow as well, but that bowler usually has to be placed on the inside center tile in order to activate King off that placement. Nonetheless, that is a very important trick to know. And here, speaking of important tricks to know, look at that fireball log taking that Witch out. Also very important to just take that Evo Witch out, not have to worry about it. Now 7.4 has an Evo Tesla saved up, using it on offense here with this Xbow also to defend that Giant. Evo Archers come down as well, which will force an arrows to come down that don't hit one of them. So Witch will come down last second, and 7.4 forced out quite a lot there, actually just stopping where he's at, you know, taking his winnings and cashing in with a Fireball Cycle. I kind of like that, you know, not really overcommitting and trying to force an Xbow lock, because realistically, right, you're not going to get one. That's the problem with this matchup. You don't get an Xbow lock, and that defense is so hard. But perfect graveyard defense that time around, no hits taken, a Fireball cycled again, and 7.4 has one, maybe 2 fireballs left in him to defend this, but I think he'll just get one more. He's going to try and defend this push first. You know, lots of troops getting played early. Fireball does come down, and he has an Evo Tesla now for this graveyard. So we'll see the archers come down high. We should see a Tesla maybe low, played in the corner actually to distract that bowler. And perfect protection, perfect activation, just overall, perfect game sense. Like I said, this methodical way of playing the game is how you play Xbow Cycle at the highest level. Look at that conversion in triple to win from a losing position. Next up, we have a very impressive win against an Omega hard counter variation of Graveyard. This is Polaris, one of the best players in the world, as evidenced by that #2 ladder badge on his profile, and he is playing with the Evo Knight, with the Berserker, if one tank wasn't enough, with the Hero Barb Barrel, and an Evo Furnace. He also has a fast cycle with the Ice Spirit, and of course a Poison for the big spell. Now, this is a complete hard counter for Xbow Cycle. I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, oh, SK, you say every single deck for Xbow Cycle is a hard counter. Let me actually explain, so I'm not just crying about it. You know, number one, Polaris has the Evo Knight, which is one of the best counters to an Xbow in the game. Every time he has an Evo Knight in rotation, you can pretty much say goodbye to your Xbow, because that is not breaking through. Number 2, he has the Furnace, one of the most annoying cards in the game, honestly. It just accrues value every time it's placed, spawning countless fire spirits and always warranting response. Even right now, you can see that Tesla was forced to hit the Furnace instead of letting that fire spirit connect to the tower. So especially when you're late in the match, they go for that Furnace. You pretty much have to fireball it, especially if it's an Evo Furnace. Otherwise, you just say goodbye and give them a ton of value. Then he has a Hero Barbell, one of the best counters to Xbow in the game. He has a Berserker to aid as a secondary mini tank, as if the Knight wasn't enough. And he has the Poison, so you can just go Knight, Barbell, Poison. Your Xbow will say goodbye. And of course, Graveyard, one of the most annoying win cons in the game, just gets so much damage every time it's placed. Almost impossible to defend perfectly. And I hope I actually explain why this is such a difficult matchup, because believe me, it really is. And if you really still don't believe me, Betfus lost this matchup earlier, so that should explain enough, because Betfus lost. When I make my Betfus video, you guys will see this game, and this matchup is not in it, because he was not able to win, but 7-4 was, so let's see how. And look at this punish right here. This is actually so nice. Evil Archers, Hero Knight one side, Xbow one side, and a last-minute Hero Knight ability in the left forces that bar barrel, so Polaris couldn't go bar barrel on that Xbow in the right instead. And okay, I think we got our answer as to how 7-4 just won this game. Insane exploitation of Polaris' cycle, even though it is, again, still a fast cycle. And he literally has a bar barrel, he has a Berserker, he has cheap responses to everything. But it was enough. That was perfectly sequenced. That is one of 7-4's signature plays. It's one of his favorite plays with this, and it's just so nice. So now a naked Graveyard Poison, because Graveyard players can literally do that and still get guaranteed damage, except for this Evo Tesla, which defends perfectly. But nonetheless, that was just so clean, because the Knight Archer on one side forces a response, then you pop that ability, and any troop they have gets taken care of it, so you taken care of by it, so you can't actually afford to defend without really wasting your Hero Bar Barrel, which is what Polaris was forced to do. That leaves the Xbow in the other lane to get free reign to break through, and so that's exactly what we saw. Also right there, really nice Xbow, just forcing Polaris to respond, not really with any great purpose of getting a lock, but really just to get a response out of Polaris, not really allow him to go in. Now we see a nice usage of these Evo Archers out of poison range because they have an extended range, although unfortunately Polaris can still defend this pretty well. You know, a Knight plus Furnace is not going to be that easy for 7-4 to break through against, and that Furnace DPS that Expo down a lot still does get quite a big Expo lock in the left, but Polaris can pretty much just ignore it. I mean, that's going to get quite a lot of damage, actually. Maybe he couldn't have ignored it, but he didn't want to poison, obviously, and so that was just perfectly timed. Just, you know, pressuring after they overspend with Graveyard Poison. And Polaris still, look at that, naked Graveyard, naked Poison still gets like 400-500 damage on the tower. The gap is slowly getting smaller and smaller as the game progresses, and this is just why this matchup is so hard. Because even when you have such a big damage lead, imagine if he didn't have any damage lead right now, he would have already lost the game from this random damage, just constantly going Graveyard Poison. Here we have Graveyard Poison Barb Barrel. E-Spirit does come in. Late log, look at how much Elixir 7-4 had to spend, plus a defensive Xbow, just to not take any Graveyard hits. But right here, we will see an Xbow, and this is the crux of how he's playing this match. Again, Evo Knight will basically shut that down, but we're going to get a nice pair of Evo Archers to defend, and a perfectly saved Evo Tesla to full defend that Graveyard. Note the way he's defending these Graveyards with that Evo Tesla. We see a nice Fireball log getting those spells on the tower because he can afford to, since he saved that Evo Tesla for the Graveyard and is still going strong. He's still going to defend that Graveyard for quite a while against this next one too. And even though that Poison will take it out, that does do a great job of defending this Graveyard. And 7-4, never letting up. You know, you're never going to play, what random Skelly hit there for no reason, but you're never going to play overly defensive, guys. If you play super defensive, you lose the game. Look at that lock. We get another lock. That is just perfect control. Even if you're ahead, even if you can sit back and defend, you always pressure to make sure the opponent can't play their game. You force them to play yours. Coming up next, we have a game against Pedro, a numerous time CRL world finalist, one of the most talented players in the world, and he is playing this Evo Royal Hog Cycle deck with the Hero Magic Archer, one of the best decks in the entire game. This deck is literally everywhere on top ladder. You know, if you're playing a game on top ladder, you can throw a dart at a dartboard of matchups, and 1 in every 3 darts will hit this Evo Piggies deck because it's just that strong. We have the Evo Ghost, one of the most broken Evos in the game for many months on end, for God knows why. We have again the Hero Magic Archer, which is just such a problematic card that gets so much value every time it's played. And we have the Evo Pigs, a very underrated sleeper card as one of the best cards in the game as well. And so this deck just comes together to be a very strong deck with lots of offensive presence and a ton of pressure to deal with as the Xbow player. 7-4, of course, knows every deck he's playing against. Interestingly enough, he does still go for that Fireball on the Goblin Hut. I think you want to save your Fireball for certain instances in this situation, but this is not one such case. 7-4 will take that Fireball on the Goblin Hut. Important to take note of that, because I feel like at a certain point he might not Fireball the Goblin Huts anymore, since he might want to save it for the Pigs or even the Magic Archers, but we're going to see how he plays this out. We have a Berserker coming down. They also do have the Berserkers, so they do have decent defense for your Xbows. I would say this is not a terrible matchup for Xbow Cycle. It's probably still really hard against a really good player like Pedro, but it's definitely not unwinnable by any means, and an unfortunate failed activation of that E-Spirit on the right. A good Fireball on this March. Notice that placement. You can try and hit the Magic Archer even when that ability comes in. Now, Evo Pigs come down. Unfortunately, 7-4 got starting hand at the beginning. He doesn't have the option to get back to that Evo Tesla to match the Evo Pigs. So Pedro will get a few random piggy hits in the left because 7-4 just didn't have much to deal with it. That was about the best he could have done with the resources that he had at the moment. So Evo Archers burned, will defend that Evo Pigs push, and we are entering double with a slight damage lead for Pedro, a bit of damage in both sides, and these high Goblin Huts are pretty annoying. Now, interestingly enough, looks like the play for 7-4 here is actually just a defensive Xbow, and we'll get an Evo Tesla to keep that defensive Xbow alive, a low log as well, and I wonder what his game is. Is he going to try and keep this defensive Xbow alive to go for another offensive bow and get an offensive presence coming? Let's find out. So split Archers the back. He's going to save this Knight for the Ghost. Just an important macro play, guys, in a lot of Royal Ghost matchups. If you didn't know, you will know now. You're supposed to save that Knight for the Royal Ghost almost every time. It's just an important play. Now, aggressive Marcher by Pedro, a bit of a misplay, because the Pigs jumped the river, or rather 7-4 made them jump the river with that Tesla, and so Pedro just kind of burnt a Magic Archer for no reason, and so 7-4 has a lot of momentum here. This Xbow is about to lock on. Magic Archer forced by Pedro again. Ability will come down, get some hits on the tower, but the Xbow still going pretty strong, and 7-4 is up so much, gets an X-Bit on opposite lane. Pedro has literally nothing for it. If he went E-Spirit, he wouldn't have had enough Elixir to stop that, and so Pedro just can't really afford to do anything about that. So pretty much what 7-4 did there is he bode his time waiting for the perfect moment to strike, went for that Xbow sequence, 1-2 in the right than the left. Pedro had no Elixir nor the cycle to defend it, and that was just perfectly executed against a world finalist. Moving on, we are taking to the skies, because next up we have a game against Lava Hound, or more specifically, Lava Loon. This one is up against Rakan, who is widely regarded to be one of the best Lava Hound players of all time, has a #2 best ladder finish in the world, and definitely a very well decorated player of the archetype. Now, Lava Hound is a very interesting archetype at that, because I feel like it's a deck that never dies. There are definitely hard metas for Lava Hound, there are good metas for Lava Hound, but similar to Xbow in a way, it never dies. There are always diehard players of Lava Hound, very good ones at that keep it alive, and they always find a variation that can be decent and usable every single season. So this time around, here Rakan is playing Lava Loon. He has a hero Mega Minion, of course, one of the most overpowered heroes in the game right now. A very scary hero for Xbow Cycle to deal with, because it can just warp right on top of your archers or even your Xbow and take it out. So definitely quite a threat to deal with. And Rakan is, interestingly enough, playing with the Void spell too. A pretty decent spell against Xbow. He has the Void arrows. Not a bad combination at all, although I will say Void is a little bit better for us than Vines, because Vines is just so painful for Xbow to deal with. I think the reason Lava players were playing Void this time around, or at least Rakan, was because of the hero Magic Archer. It's just a natural counter to the card that's cheaper than the Fireball, so that's my theory on that. Rakan does also have the Evo Inferno Dragon, which myself and Dybala do personally believe to be one of the scariest cards in Clash Royale. If you're not ready for it, it's going to get you. But here we see a split Evo Archers and a prediction E-Spirit, it looks like, for that hero Mega Minion, which Rakan doesn't take. 7-4 with the knowledge to know that Rakan has that hero Mega Minion in cycle, might try and snipe, but instead just plays patient, doesn't take it, and now get the ability coming in opposite lane, which is going to be very scary. A Fireball forced out by 7-4, so definitely not what he was looking for. Bit of mind games going on at the top level again, just, you know, trying to protect the archers from that hero Mega Mega Minion, saving the Hero Mega Minion, sniping the archers later on. And this is an interesting position because Rakan is playing this so patiently, cycling the spell, cycling his troops, getting back to his Evos, Evo Valk, Evo Inferno Dragon, and 7-4 isn't really playing any Xbows, not pressuring, because he knows Rakan has the Balloon, he knows he has the Valk, the Guards, the Void, he has a lot of counters to an Xbow if he needs them, so he's not going to really let that just break through for no reason. And so 7-4 being very intentional, cycling stuff in such a way to try and get Xbows going. And now Rakan does play the first Lava Hound of the day. 7-4 gets a nice Knight connection on the right, and he will potentially get an Xbow lock in the left here. And we do see a very nice setup here of this Xbow tucked in and the Tesla played up high. I want you guys to take note of this placement, because even though it wasn't used in that such instance, that is the placement used to pull a balloon from the Tesla over to the Xbow. So that's why we go for tucked Xbows usually, opposite lane against Lava Hound. Also, interestingly enough, guys, I like going Salem against Lava Hound personally. That's been my playstyle for years. But I've been re-evaluating recently by watching top players like 7-4 and even Betfist. Betfist got on this wave even before people like 7-4. But I like going same lane because it prevents a tower trade situation, right? But these top players like 7-4 and Betfist have actually started going opposite lane, as you can see, because it just creates a good amount of pressure that doesn't allow the opponent to build up a big Lava Hound push. There we get a huge Xbow lock, and 7-4 cycled all the way back to a brand new Xbow while freely going for a Tesla with the Xbow because he could pull that balloon to his previous Tesla, pretty much mitigating majority of the damage in the left side. And now he's going to take a bit of damage against that Lava Hound in the left because he knows Rakan's building up a massive push in the right, and we're not even getting any Xbows here. 7-4 knows he just needs to survive, and so that is his goal. We'll get the Evo Archers, which will get arrows off immediately, but again, that really nice knowledge to, switch from really aggressive offensive mode to pure defensive mode. This is what's known as macro gameplay, or macro decision making, like micro and macro economics. Micro is the small scale details, like Knight defending something, or Ice Spirit, E-Spirit, Skelly's perfectly defending a troop, and macro is the large scale decision making, and it's one of the things that makes 7-4 pretty much one of the best players in the world, is the fact that his macro is always on point, his decisions are always on point, he's never messing this up, and he knows now is a time to go full defensive. And it's still not easy. Look at this. Rakan is going to get a balloon connection, going to get a hit, and still a very scary defense. But 7-4 knowingly takes that balloon hit to make sure he has enough elixir to defend this remaining massive onslaught of Lava Hound support troops. And Rakan is not happy, because at the end of the day, Xbow Cycle 3.0, we do have matchup against pretty much every Lava Hound variation, honestly. You just have to execute correctly, and that is a picture-perfect blueprint of how to defend against Lava Hound and how to attack as well. 7-4 and I have yet another game against Royal Giant Cycle for your learning pleasure. The simple reality of the matter is that Royal Giant is one of the strongest archetypes of all time in Clash Royale. And every single season, no matter what the meta is like, there will be a Royal Giant deck that does well. And this has been proven time and time again. There were a lot of silly people saying that Royal Giant will not be good in Retro Royale because there's no Fisherman. Guess what? It was still one of the most dominant decks in the entire format, to the point where people started to build counter decks to RG just because of its strength. There is no real explanation for RG being so dominant other than the fact that it's just one of the strongest win conditions in the game, and it has some of the best synergy with the most broken cards in the game. Look at the Hero Barber, look at the Evo Ghost, look at way back in, 2020 when Skeleton Dragons were really good. There was that really fast Royal Giant Hunter Skeleton Dragon cycle deck with the also overpowered Heal Spirit. You guys remember that? Every single season, there is a new Royal Giant deck. When Prime Phoenix was broken, Royal Giant was able to run Phoenix. It's still able to run Phoenix right now, by the way. When Giant Skeleton was broken, there's Royal Giant Skeleton Earthquake. There's just always a meta for Royal Giant, and so you guys really need to learn exactly how to play against Royal Giant as an archetype as a whole. And if you guys paid any attention to the Mugi game, then you know that the single most underlying principle behind the Royal Giant matchup is the fact that is going to be a spell cycle heavy matchup, and that is something that is simply due to the fact that you will almost never get a good Expo lock against a competent RG player. Because look at the deck composition right here that we're against. They have pretty much the same cycle as us. E-Spirit Skellies, 2 Elixir Barbell versus our 2 Elixir Log, and then 3 Elixir Fisherman or Ghost versus our 3 Elixir Knight and Archers. They have the same exact cycle as us, so we're pretty much never going to be able to outcycle their Royal Giant unless they make a grave mistake in single Elixir, which is usually just not going to be the case against a talented RG player worth their salt. Here we see nice stacked archers by 7-4 to defend that RG, which will get fireballed off by Mateja. Mateja, a pretty well-known good player as well. And we do see an Xbow right here by 7-4 because he knows that he's kind of outcycled Mateja, but nonetheless, you can see it doesn't really end up in anything because Mateja is able to cycle back to an RG, even though he kind of overextended on that offense. He fireballed the archers, negative trade. He was able to get all the way back to an RG. Really nice protection of those archers by 7-4, tying back to what we said earlier about how the archers are the centermost integral part of this deck, keeping them alive, taking that RG out. And notice that 7-4 went Xbow to just force a lot of elixir out, and then cashed back in with just fireballing the tower to get his spell damage back. Also notice this very underrated play in the RG matchup is logging the support troops in the opposite lane, even when you are going in the other lane. So like right here, right, Mateja's going in the right, 7-4 is going in the left, but 7-4 is still sometimes log cycling in the right, just to whittle down those support troops to prevent Mateja from building a massive push. Now a naked fireball does come in because he has these evil archers, he knows he's going to defend this RG push. Mateja gets a brand new RG down, but 7-4 is back to a new Tesla. He is not worried about this defense. You know, Mateja could have gotten a good fireball, scary fireball on the Tesla there to make it a little bit tough, but 7-4 had his number with that defense, and he knew he was going to get away with that, especially because the Tesla was of the Evo variety. Now we get a nice defensive Xbow, anti-fireball placement, and this Xbow does pull an RG by itself, so it's kind of nice. Archers do come down, and trying to force a potential fireball in the middle, not going to happen. Perfectly timed skeletons will come in to actually defend that RG without any hits. Oh my gosh, I swear there was going to be a hit, but 7-4 knew if he went Tesla there, he would have almost maybe even lost the game because he was down quite a bit of elixir. Instead, just has the wherewithal, has the awareness and the discipline to not get that Tesla down. That is, you guys might say glaze or whatever, you guys are probably going to say that the entire video, to be honest, but that is just such an important niche detail of that scenario. That was just so clean. I mean, conserving elixir for the next sequence, making sure he had enough to defend the next RG instead of losing on the previous one. Perfectly timed log to reset that RG's attack animation, and 7-4 is officially up by 1 fireball. Mateja tried to pressure with really good RGs, and they were really scary RG pushes. You know, that was a lot of pressure. But if 7-4 can withhold pushes against Mugi, the former world champion, he can probably beat anyone else in this matchup too. And so Skellies do come down. Another important micro play here to prevent that Fisherman from whisking away that Knight, just making sure he gets the most value it can. Another fireball by 7-4, actually a little aggressive there, because he doesn't really need to. You know, he's up by the fireball, but instead he just takes it, he defends, that RG doesn't even get a hit, and 7-4 is going to win by 3 fireballs. Insane margin, shows you the difference. But that is another picture-perfect example and blueprint of how to play against RG. Again, a deck that is dominant every single meta. You have to know how to play against it, and this is exactly how you're going to learn it.